Welcome to the Flynn Brothers podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jimmy. Today's big idea, Sherlock Holmes versus Hercule Poirot.
We compared literature's two most famous private detectives, evaluating their sidekicks, personal quirks, and crime-solving prowess.
Later, we dive into the history of their authors, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Agatha Christie, then discuss the influences that inspired their iconic sleuths.
Finally, we consider how effectively each character has been adapted into film and TV projects, then pit the two against each other to determine who earns the high honor of being the Flynn Brothers' favorite.
It's all coming up. But first, here's the Solons.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, buddy, we're sort of in the waning days of the true crime boom, but for me, I've never been much into true crime.
Right?
I prefer fake crime.
Fake crime. Why is that? Why do you like fake crime?
Well, I'd say it's superior for many reasons. Somebody with a real life doesn't actually die, which
true.
I've always found sort of unseemly about true crime. You know, it's a little exploitive. It reduces a person's life to the way that they died, and I think that's kind of unfair to the family. Reality, too, I find is often quite hacky. Like, the plots of the true crime thing, it's like, oh, well, I guess it was that guy who supposedly did it. And, and then there's always in fiction, the plot is in the hands of a master. There is no unresolved loose ends. There are, no gray areas. There is no sort of meandering things that don't lead to a payoff. You get the payoff, and the people who deserve punishment get punished.
I suppose one could argue most fiction crime writers base the crimes in their fiction off of real-life crimes, though. Isn't that tend to be the case?
Well, occasionally, but for the most part, no. I mean, most of the time, the murders that happen in the types of tales that we'll be getting into, they are more fanciful, typically, than your run-of-the-mill, or regular Joe killers out there.
Right.
And the other thing that's most enjoyable about it is that you get very distinct and delightful detectives on the case, and private detectives in particular. I don't think in real life private detectives are the way that they're stylized in fiction.
No, you and I in our life have met, I think, one private detective, but yeah, you'd think based on fiction that it's like 1 in 3 men over 50 are a private detective. But yeah, they don't exist much outside of fiction, but it is a wonderful character type, and I got a hunch we're gonna explore a couple of the most famous of those detectives today's episode.
That's right. They're private detectives, to me, are so great because, they have the freedom to act in the way that they do. They're pursuing justice, a very noble goal. They have a code of honor, but they're not necessarily bound by laws, which we like, going back to Batman. And they're allowed to be sort of idiosyncratic. And I think the reason we like this is people in general like to solve mysteries, and particularly solving crime. But we're not all the biggest fans of the police or the way that police do business. So it's like, give me all the good stuff without maybe some of the baggage of cops.
Yeah, it's funny, too. There's the old saying, cops are always like, the job's 90% paperwork. And that's another great thing about fiction is it's never 90% paperwork, right? It's always interrogating a witness, chasing down a suspect. Another thing I'll say about private detectives, what makes them such great characters, they're kind of modern-day knights. They sort of operate on their own volition, but they do have a code. They do have an honor. They do serve a higher calling, even though they kind of are sort of solitary figures who roam from kingdom to kingdom, fighting for justice. But it's just a wonderful archetype.
Yeah, and they're typically in these stories, you're in idyllic locales. You're in lovely places, and then there's always a stock sort of cast of characters, and you're like, I wonder how they're going to do the jilted lover this time, or who are going to be the jealous, money-hungry relatives, or I wonder how they'll characterize the suspicious groundskeeper/maid. That's some of my joys, and my favorite private detectives, as we teased up top, are the Victorian proto-superhero Sherlock Holmes. Just off the top, what are some things that come to mind with Sherlock Holmes for you?
Elementary, my dear Watson. You got to go right to the catchphrase.
Which I believe he is never actually directly quoted as saying. He does things are elementary, and he does call Watson my dear Watson, but I don't know if those exact words ever came in that order.
Yeah, so there's that. I think of the modern day adaptations. We got the Benedict Cumberbatch and the kind of twitchy performance he gives. We got the Rock'em Sock'em Robert Downey Jr., and the Guy Ritchie version. And then, I love, I got a great book of adventures of Sherlock Holmes from my Nana many years ago, and I loved reading all those adventures. And I think he's really best realized in the books. But yeah, you just think of a really smart character, bit of a drug habit. Yeah. I'm very curious when you said proto superhero. I'm curious to get into that a little later as well.
Trust me, we will. And then the other of my favorite detectives is the Belgian fancy boy / genius Hercule Poirot.
Right, Hercule Poirot. He's not French. He's Belgian, right?
He is Belgian.
He's from the Agatha Christie mysteries. Known for his robust and twirling mustache.
Yes.
I don't know that he really has a catchphrase so much. Does he have one?
He does. He refers to, well, it's more of a, I guess it's a tip. It's literally a catchphrase because it's just a little phrase. Okay. He refers to the little gray cells in reference to his brain cells.
Oh, yes.
Poirot is a very intellectual detective.
He is. He's rather rotund.
Yes.
And his will we get into his signature drink at some point?
Yes, we will. Okay, we will be getting into all that. All right, so let's dive in with kind of the character I think most people know a little bit more about. I'm going to give you the breakdown of one Sherlock Holmes. He is a confirmed bachelor who lives at 221 Baker Street, and if you want him, you can find him there. He is tall, rail thin, another character with a canonically high hairline, known for his houndstooth deer stalker hat. He famously only takes on cases that excite his interest. And so this doesn't necessarily mean that you're a fancy, high-born person. He will occasionally take a penniless person's case if it fascinates him enough. This is what gets Holmes off the couch.
It's those people who are, I think the term is sapiosexual. You're attracted to someone's like intellect or personality. He's sort of that way with crimes. Yes. They have to stimulate his mind. He won't do it for money, like you said. He'll do specific ones. The one thing though with the hat, and I'm just kind of picturing it. I remember that from the stories, but I can't really recall any of the big screen adaptations giving him the houndstooth hat. That's sort of disappeared from the big screen adaptations. Maybe they wear it. He wears it a little bit, but I don't remember it too often.
Well, often in the adventures, Holmes is venturing to the English countryside, where such a deer stalker cap would be necessary. Right. But in more of the film and TV adaptations, it's who also famously wore a deerstalker hat in fiction.
Give me a little hint here.
He's in The Catcher in the Rye.
Holden
Caulfield.
Yeah.
It took me a second actually to remember.
Never made it through the book, I'll tell you.
You're a real phony. So Holmes, he'll go many months without finding a case that excites his interest, and during this time he basically just goes to rot. He's conducting bizarre experiments, and in addition to this, his sort of characteristics, I would say, if I were to describe him, he's quite egotistical. He's arrogant, he's rude, but he's also brilliant and charming, and he suffers no fools. He will not let somebody like be pompous around him or pretend to be smarter than they actually are. Holmes smokes a pipe and even dabbles in a bit of cocaine.
Yes.
And
does he do depressants like heroin or morphine? Does he do that as well?
It is hinted at morphine.
Okay.
Holmes is not your sort of typical addict. He says he does it only because he's bored. He says, to quote Holmes, "My mind repels its stagnation. Give me problems, give me work. I can dispense then with artificial stimulants, but I abhor the dull routine of existence. I crave for mental exaltation." Which is
yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, he's a guy who the world is not stimulating enough, and yes, the only things that really get him going are crimes or inebriants, and occasionally hanging out with his pal Watson.
Watson's just about the only guy who can really, stand Holmes for any serious period of time. And then the cocaine usage, Freud famously used cocaine sort of at this time. So it wasn't exactly like, I don't think it had the same sort of like Miami Vice party boy sort of reputation.
It wasn't
that it has
Freud
now.
going, everyone wants to their mom. That wasn't what he was saying.
I can't say that never happened. All right. So anyway, once Holmes finds a sufficiently interesting case, he throws himself into it completely. He is a master of disguise, capable of going undercover with elaborate costumes, and he's a great actor. There's many times where it's mentioned that he could have had a career upon the stage if he had wanted.
This is something you and I love in detective fiction, or anytime some guy's doing a mission. Burn Notice famously does this as well. Anytime you have this kind of chameleon-like detective, it is so fun when they like put on a voice or ditch the houndstooth cap for a construction helmet and pretend to be a construction worker. Like, it is just such a great trope of these types of stories.
Absolutely. He just as a few of the characters that he has gone undercover as. He has gone undercover as an opium addict, an Italian priest, a sailor on multiple occasions, an old woman with a parasol, and a quote flirtatious plumber. Is what I saw there.
Flirtatious plumber.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not an often kind of a bizarre this plus that.
Kind of oxymoronic.
Any sketch comedians out there, feel free to take that
the
one.
Flirtatious plumber.
Yeah. I gotta clean these pipes. I guess actually.
Yeah, it's porn. It's porn. It's a porn character. Yeah.
All right. He operates by powers of deduction, which is
course.
taking small details and drawing the larger picture from them. And he often will use it on his clients as sort of a party trick when they first arrive, and they're like, "Oh, you're the Sherlock Holmes that I've heard so much about, but I'm none too impressed by you, sir." And he just sizes them up for 1 second and can tell that they're like left-handed and divorced, and they didn't sleep very well last night.
He's like, you have calluses on your left pinky finger, suggesting you're left-handed, and your coat is frayed, suggesting it's an older coat. Yeah, he does all that stuff.
Exactly. And this either will amaze them or outrage them. And
there's that famous moment in the Guy Ritchie movie, right, where he does it to Holmes's fiance or new wife or something.
Watson's new Watson's new fiance.
And he kind of gets it 99% correct, and then
he takes one leap further. He sees a faded tan of where a ring used to be on her finger, and he's accuses her of dumping her husband for Watson. And she's like, "Only one thing wrong, Mr. Holmes." "I didn't leave him. He died." And then she throws a glass of wine in his face. And then Robert Downey Jr. hams it up by leaving all the wine on his face and then digging into a steak with a very comically over the top.
That is Holmesy, though, in that he deserves it. And he doesn't wipe it off his face. There is like a masochistic streak to him a little bit as well. He is this very like tortured and kind of leans into the fact that he's tortured as a character.
Absolutely. And so he really dives into the cases. He's really hunting down clues. He puts himself into the thick of things. And his sort of catchphrase regarding his philosophy of solving crimes is, "When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth."
Wow.
Which I think that's just a great way of putting it.
That's great.
And he also can handle himself in a fight. He can use a gun if things get mixed up. Holmes has a sort of a prowess with boxing. He's a little Batman-y to me.
Is this part of the proto superhero?
Yes.
You think?
Yeah. That's how I kind of see him. And so his famous cases, typically Holmes's cases, they involve a little bit of like the supernatural, and he then, finds the rational explanation for what's going wrong. So, for instance, in The Hound of Baskervilles, there is apparently a ghost dog that is roaming the Scottish moors, terrifying people and attacking them, and it's actually just a regular dog painted with glow-in-the-dark paint.
They had that back then.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
phosphorus. I translated it for the modern audience.
Sorry to go back to his superhero-ness. Is it part of it too? Like his superpower, I guess, is like his deduction, right? It's his super brain, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of his
I
power.
mean, I checked off a bunch of things. He has a layer, 221 Baker speak. He has a sidekick. He has a costume. He has gadgets. He has a contentious relationship with the police. So he helps them bring in bad guys through questionable means. And he has a super villain rival in Moriarty.
Yeah, it is very proto-superhero, very proto-Batman specifically.
Yes.
But yeah, I think you could argue that a lot of superheroes derive from Holmes, right? I mean, all these, they used to be called detective comics, right?
Right.
Like Batman especially. So yeah, it is interesting, this lineage that we see today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, then, now that we've sort of summed up Holmes here, I'd like to bring our attention now to Hercule Poirot.
All right, let's just nip this in the bud. What is this accent? What is this pronunciation? I know that's how Hercule Poirot talks, but what is going on here?
Well, this is the way that his name is pronounced,
Yeah.
You're supposed to say Antonio Banderas.
Okay,
you know
and you're
what I
supposed to
mean?
go then Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah,
is that
maybe.
what you're supposed to do then?
Maybe I should have been doing that.
Yeah, maybe
Anyway,
should have been doing that.
in one of the great adaptations of Hercule Poirot, someone says his name like Poirot because it's spelled Poirot, and he's like, no, madame, you are supposed to form your lips as though you're about to give a kiss. And then he's like, Poirot.
He's a fancy boy.
He is a
isn't he?
fancy
Yeah.
boy. He is also a confirmed bachelor, although, unlike Holmes, appears to be pretty much completely uninterested in having any sort of relationship. He's a sexless, purely intellectual creature. Holmes, in a scandal in Bohemia, falls for an American actress, Irene Adler, who's the only person to ever really outsmart Holmes, the only woman in particular.
For the Philistines, Rachel McAdams in the Guy Ritchie movie.
That's right.
I'm a Philistine. Keep going.
Yeah. Poirot, if I were to describe him, he is short, plump. He has a head that is in the exact shape of an egg. He has middle parted hair and glorious, and this is how they phrase it, mustaches. Not one mustache, mustaches. So indicating that there are, peaks and valleys and various angles
It's
upon
like
these things.
it's like a Hot Wheels track. It's like
Yeah.
there's a couple loop-de-loops,
Yes.
aren't there? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Which these mustaches, he maintains them and keeps them well waxed. He is also impeccably dressed. He is always dressed to the nines. He's extremely fastidious about his appearance, and he looks down upon those who do not attend to themselves quite so well. Like Holmes, he is a world-famous detective who delights in his own renown. Holmes does like being famous, but does shun the limelight a little bit. Hercule Poirot, not the case. He assumes everybody knows who he is wherever he shows up.
Would you say these men, and to kind of harken back to why they struggle in their relationships with women, it seems like Hercule Poirot is not interested in that sort of stuff, and Holmes dabbles in it as much as just to fulfill his carnal desires, essentially. Do you think then these gentlemen, they're married to crime and crime solving? Is that, it's like when a priest is married to the church, is that really kind of the love of their life?
Yes. You and I just watched Heat, the Michael Mann picture, where Al Pacino plays a very similar type of character. He loves hunting down the bad guys.
3 divorces. He loves the action. He loves the chase.
Yeah, I would consider Poirot to be asexual,
Yes,
probably. I think
yes,
Agatha Christie writes him in this way specifically just to make him purely a vessel through which these mysteries, stories can be told and
Right.
solved. Holmes, I think, has a little bit more of a machismo to him and can be interested in women. So Poirot does not have a home base. There is no 221 Baker Street for Poirot. He's often traveling around Europe or the Middle East or sometimes Egypt. And in many stories, it's like Poirot is retired and he's done. And, oh, mon ami, I could never solve another case. And he gets dragged into another case.
What's he doing then? If he's retired, he's not into chicks. Is he got various hobbies? What's he doing?
At one point, he's trying to grow, like, they call them marrows, vegetable marrows, which are basically like giant squash.
Gourds.
He's like obsessed with growing gourds for a little bit, but then he gets tired of that and throws it up, and then he gets roped back into a case. So he's always just kind of like, he loves being like, oh, this murder, it's unsolvable. Nobody could possibly solve it. If only there was a brilliant detective who we could drag into this case.
Both these men, they really want to be wanted,
Absolutely.
don't they? They will not do it on their own volition. They have to be pulled into it. How about
Absolutely. Yes. And Poirot, he likes nothing better than being on vacation. It's like, oh, finally to relax and to no longer be torn by the cares of this world. And then somebody gets murdered on his like riverboat cruise and he has to get on
Hercule Poirot is on the case.
That is exactly it. You beat me to his catchphrase. That is Hercule Poirot. He is a lover of cloyingly sweet things. He does not care for tea. He prefers really rich, dark, hot chocolate. He doesn't really booze. Certainly doesn't do cocaine. For drinks, he prefers highly sweet liqueurs like a creme de cassis, which is basically syrup. And he is, unlike Holmes, never in disguise. He is always himself.
How could he?
How
with
could
the-
he?
with
He's
the
two
Hot
distinct
Wheels
chains.
mustaches. I like sugar's kind of his drug.
Yes,
he's
that's good.
there's almost this childlike naivete with the love of sweets, with how he dresses, with the lack of interest in the opposite sex. Very, very interesting. He does. I thought he did the creme de cassis. He does it in like a little bit of champagne. Isn't
Right.
that what he? Yeah. So
Yes,
it's
but
kinda-
he'll drink it on his own too.
Oh,
People
God.
typically, that's how you're supposed to drink creme de cassis, but I think
on its own.
he drinks it on his own. You're not supposed to
You're
drink
supposed to
it
add
on
it
its
to
own.
champagne.
Yes,
That's
yeah,
right. Oh
yeah,
boy,
yeah.
he does have a sweet.
He's
tooth.
a sweet
That's how he got so portly. I imagine.
Yes, he does not care much for exercise either.
He's into scholarly pursuits.
Yes,
yeah,
he's a
scholarly
scholar.
pursuits.
He is Belgian, as we mentioned earlier, though mistakenly called French often due to his habit of exclaiming in French phrases.
Do you have an example of that?
So we have mon ami, which is my dear. He'll say enchanté if he meets a particularly glamorous
basically
woman.
enchanted, like and very pleased to meet you, right? Will, you're a French expert. We'll turn to him to verify this. Yeah.
And mon Dieu, which was just like,
know
my
that-
goodness, my God.
okay,
Yeah,
all
it's
right,
if something as surprising has happened. But he's peppering these. I've just chosen sort of the most accessible of them. He's, peppering little bits of French all over the place here. It's
Well, you
English
can't
is his
blame-
second language.
You can't blame people for assuming he's French if he's speaking French half the time.
No, you cannot. He also solves his cases through deduction. He refers to the little gray cells, as I referred to earlier, his brain cells. That's what he relies on. And while Holmes will get a little bit more down and dirty hunting for clues, Poirot prefers to analyze the psychology and motives of his suspects and deduce it this way. He has little bits of, like, he'll always like ask the questions that the other detectives or the people are like, why are you asking that question, Poirot? What does that have to do with anything? And then of course always it does sort of unlock the case.
So Holmes is more evidence-based, whereas Poirot, it's kind of, like you said, psychoanalysis and kind of prying into the suspects to get them to confess.
Yeah, I think Holmes is less like evidence-based than, say, your run-of-the-mill Scotland Yard detective who's,
Sure.
Peering through a, magnifying glass at like footprints and stuff like that. Holmes isn't exactly, like that, but he's a little bit more about the evidence than that. And then in comparison to the Holmes cases, which are typically sort of wrapped up within Baker Street, where he tells whoever his client is what's happened, or he's busted the bad guy and he's given him over to Scotland Yard. What happens with these Poirot mysteries is typically they're kind of like bottle episodes, like in TV, where there's a cast of characters who all ostensibly could have committed the crime, and Poirot is able to sort of keep these people contained to a confined area, and he works for a while to solve the case, and then at the end, once he's cracked it, he gathers everybody together and he explains how he figured it out, and then always points out the killer. And the person is like, very well done, Hercule Poirot. And it's the person who's done it has always thought they gotten away with it, particularly if they don't know who Poirot is. Whereas Holmes is a man who I think is fearsome, like his intellect, his capability, all of that. Poirot prefers, I think, to be underestimated, for people to think that he is silly, for them to think that he is frivolous.
He purposefully wants people to judge him as a book by the cover, right? By the silly mustache, the protruding gut, the love of sweets, these sort of things. And I think he relishes it. Do you think as a criminal, if you got busted by Poirot, it would be kind of an honor? I've been had by the legendary Hercule Poirot. I mean, it would almost be an honor, wouldn't it?
And in comparison to some of the Holmesy cases where typically the culprit gets like arrested and tried for their crimes, often in the Poirot mysteries, the person will like commit suicide, sadly, or take their own life, however we're supposed to say it. But I think that's kind of Poirot's a little bit more outside of the law, or sometimes a person will have committed a murder, but he'll even like kind of cover it up if that's what the person wants, and it seems just and things like that. So Poirot's known to sort of play a little loose within the confines of the law. His most famous cases, many of them have been adapted into films. There's the Murder on the Orient Express. Murder on the Orient Express.
That's a great one. Great twist. I've seen the original version with Albert Finney, I think, plays Hercule Poirot. And it's a stacked cast. It's like Anthony Perkins.
Sean Connery.
Lauren Bacall. It's like totally stacked. So if you've never seen that one, that is a really great one. It's one of the all-time twists, I think, in detective fiction. I think it's really tremendous.
Absolutely. So for that reason, I will not reveal the twist. The next one then is Death on the Nile, also been adapted twice. This one is really fascinating. I'm going to spoil the twist of this one. It's a jilted woman is tracking her former lover and his new wife on their honeymoon. So this man dumps a woman and then marries this other woman, and then the dumped woman pursues them on their honeymoon. And just a really like bizarre, like funny,
a little forgetting Sarah Marshall-ish.
Yes, gender swapped. And then eventually the new wife ends up dead. And it turns out the woman who was following was not jilted at all. She was working with this man to inherit the new wife's inheritance. So pretty interesting there. And then this is my personal favorite of Hercule Poirot. I would maybe recommend reading one of the more famous ones first, but The Murder of Roger Ackroyd contains, I will say, the most brilliantly written twist I've ever seen, I'll say, in literature, period.
Wow. Just the way Christie writes it and executes it and reveals it, you'd say?
Yes.
Wow.
It is truly remarkable. I did not see it coming at all.
Awesome.
And it's something I've never seen anybody else pull off. So that book is my highest possible recommendation, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd.
I really enjoyed Kenneth Branagh's been Poirot as of late, and he did Haunting in Venice. That one? That was a really tremendous movie. There's the classic line where Hercule Poirot is on the case. He's, been dragged. He's he's rowing the gondolas in Venice or whatever. But it is funny because Kenneth Branagh, known for being so dashing and handsome, and then he plays kind of not sexy Poirot, but it is just such a funny meshing of the two worlds where Albert Finney really played up the like egg-headedness of Poirot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we will dive into more of those. But first, we're going to talk about the authors of these two sleuths. Sorry. Let's just back it up too. Okay. We're going to get more into the sort of physical adaptations. But before that, I think one thing, like as we said, that Holmes was the proto-superhero, I think that Poirot is the inspiration for shows like Psych or Monk or A Man on the Inside, these sort of cozy detective stories where the stakes aren't that high and, you know, someone's been murdered and that's too bad, but we're going to figure it out and we're going to have a good time doing it.
I forget what they call them. It's like parlor room mysteries. Knives Out is a little like this as well, even though we're not the biggest fans of that franchise. But no need to take a pot shot, I suppose. Just, you know, we state our opinions on there.
That's right.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think when you read or watch a Sherlock Holmes work, it's a little higher stakes, it's a little higher tension, whereas there is this easiness, and I think the word you chose is perfect, coziness about Poirot. And you know either way the case is going to get solved, but it's a lot less dark and it's a lot less cozy when Poirot's on the case.
Yeah. All right. And let's go ahead and dive into the authors of these famous sleuths right after the break. We're going to start with Agatha Christie this time. I'm mixing up the order here a little bit, keep people guessing. So Agatha Christie, about Poirot, she has written 33 novels and 51 short stories that feature that rotund Belgian. She is a prolific author. She has only been outsold by 2 people.
I believe the Bible is that one.
Yes, God,
I guess. And other book that has outsold Agatha Christie.
only other author that is outsold.
Oh, only other. Oh God, is it L. Ron Hubbard?
No, it is Shakespeare. Thank goodness.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Oh, good. Phew. All right. Good. It's hard. You know, we live in Los Angeles. Hard to know.
So this prolific author, you know who outsold him? There are 6 publishers who are undoubtedly kicking themselves because her first attempts at writing were rejected by 6 publishers. And she serves as a nurse in World War I, where she meets Belgian refugees fleeing from Germany. And so this is the inspiration for Poirot. Her career starts with not my day. Her career starts with the mysterious affair at Styles. Styles being sort of a country place in England, and this
just rolls off the tongue.
Yes.
That title, easy to say that, huh? Yeah,
yeah,
boy.
you can see perhaps why those publishers thought the way they did. This is the first Poirot book. So Christie's first book features Hercule Poirot, and he's sent to investigate a murder at a posh English country home. Success soon follows, and she, as part of sort of working with the British Empire, she tours the world. A fun fact about her, she is one of the first Britons to surf standing up. So she visited Waikiki and stayed for 3 months learning how to surf.
Oh, well, no British people had ever been to Hawaii, I
Right.
guess. When she,
Right,
was she
exactly.
alive, the early 1900s?
Kinda,
something like
yeah,
that?
exactly,
Yeah,
1920s.
yeah, God, she's probably the first British person to get there, you know? If you're
Yeah.
the first, you're the first, you know?
Absolutely. Well, still, interesting.
Still cool. It is very interesting. It is.
I believe she's in the Surfing Hall of Fame for that. This is a quote of hers. "It is one of the most perfect physical pleasures I have ever known. known is how Agatha Christie feels about surfing.
That's what Poirot says when he drinks that extra sweet hot chocolate, isn't it?
Yes, and she is kind of a little bit like Poirot as well. I would describe her as this word has been corrupted by social media, but she is very demure. Her chief this is another quote from her. My chief dislikes are crowds, loud noises, gramophones, and cinemas. I dislike the taste of alcohol and do not like smoking. I do like sun, sea, flowers, traveling, strange foods, sports, concerts, theaters, pianos, and doing embroidery. Those are Agatha Christie's. Any of those appeal to you, buddy?
Sun, I guess.
Yeah.
I sort of my mind glazed over as you listed them all, to be honest with you.
Well, fair enough. That's kind of one of the appeals, though, of Agatha Christie's writing is there is a very soothing tone and timbre to it.
That I think that is true. It kind of lulls you. If you fall asleep while reading it, that's okay. You can just wake up and keep going.
That's right. Probably the defining thing that she is known of, other than surfing and being a author, is she disappears for 11 days in 1926 after her divorce from her first husband, who leaves her for a woman with a last name of Neely. That'll come back. Her car is found with her clothes inside, and she is feared drowned. It is a massive news story. Nobody can find her. It's front page news every day that she's gone. Wow. And none other than Sir Arthur Conan Doyle offers one of her gloves to a psychic in the hopes that it will help locate her.
Wow.
She is found at a hotel roughly 200 miles from home under the name Neely.
Oh, boy.
Bizarre.
Oh, boy. If you're her ex-husband and you learn that, you'd be like, well, I'm dead soon. I got about, 10 days till I'm murdered by my ex-wife. All right, okay.
She wrote an autobiography that does not mention this at all.
Well, she probably was like a blackout or a fugue state.
Right.
Must have been.
The
right?
fugue state is one of the proposed explanations. Another one is it was a nervous breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
And the third was that it was sort of a stunt that she didn't realize would get the attention that it did. So I think a little bit of all three, perhaps feeling a little bit unsettled.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just lost it and, kind of needed to disappear at a hotel 200 miles from home. Who hasn't done that?
Yeah.
And,
identify as the name of the woman that your husband left you for. Yeah.
She just happened to be a world-famous author and the greatest female British surfer of all time.
At that time,
at least, yes.
But then, after this, she recuperates, doesn't really offer much of an explanation. People are a little bit suspicious of it, don't really love that it happened because everybody got all worked up and concerned about her, and it's like, oh, she's completely fine. Nobody took her. Like, I think it's sort of an anticlimactic letdown to the mystery.
It is, yes. That's like what you're saying. Life can be hack and kind of, unsatisfying. That's why we love fiction.
That's right. She remarries an archaeologist who she travels with, and these travels inspire stories for Poirot, and he, sort of travels around the Middle East and Egypt.
Hey.
And there's a great verisimilitude.
All's well that ends well, huh? How about that?
She also, this is a thing that I find very funny, this character, she puts a character in many Poirot novels named Adriadne, or I'm not sure I'm saying that right, Adriadne, Adriadne. Want to give that a shot?
Adriadne, yeah.
Adriadne, whatever. Adriadne Oliver, who is a eccentric, famous parody of herself.
Oh, funny.
Played by Tina Fey in A Haunting in Venice.
Yes.
And it's kind of a way, I think, that she sort of pokes fun at herself. The other funny detail about Adriadne Oliver is that she has a famous Finnish detective in her stories that she often comments she wishes she hadn't made him Finnish, as she knows nothing about Finland.
Awesome.
So,
I love the surrogate author in great authors writer's work. You see it with Bukowski or Vonnegut, all these greats. It's always so fun.
Definitely. And then, okay, that brings us to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. A bit less prolific, 4 novels and 56 short stories surrounding Sherlock Holmes.
Wow, 4! I actually didn't even know Holmes was novels. I thought it was all short stories. Very interesting.
I think he's better known for the short stories, and I
Yeah.
think Holmes works a little better in the short stories, where I would say that Poirot works a little better in the novels.
Yes,
I like him better in the
that
novels.
slower pace, right? That than kind of a more languid pace. Yeah.
Yes. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, he's a doctor on sailing vessels that travel all around the world. Feather in his cap is that he is pro-compulsory vaccination very early on. So he is pro-vaccination, which is quite good.
It's at odds with the administration nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah. There's apparently some dispute as to whether that's such a good idea nowadays. Not with us. Not here on the Flynn Brother podcast. He does not do well in establishing a medical practice, though. He just sort of struggles to be a doctor.
Well, he doesn't look healthy. What person would go to Hercule Poirot with his huge gut and twirling mustache?
No.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Conan Doyle.
Yes.
Oh, God. Sorry. I thought we were talking Poirot for a second.
we're on
Oh,
Conan
God.
Doyle.
Sorry. My
Yes.
mind. Too many eccentric geniuses.
Right.
My mind got all mixed up. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
I would certainly trust Hercule Poirot to solve a case for me. I would not take his medical advice.
You need to drink more hot chocolate. It's like, I'm diabetic. What are you talking about?
Come on, Poirot. He publishes stories about Holmes based on a university professor of his, Conan Doyle does, and they're extremely popular. But Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is not the biggest fan of writing about Holmes. He, in letters, fantasizes about killing him because Holmes, quote, takes his mind away from better matters.
Weird.
Yeah, so he doesn't really like writing the Sherlock Holmes stories.
It's like how the guys in Journey hate playing Don't Stop Believing, but every time they play a show, like in the contract, you're going to close with it, right? Yeah.
You better. And so he decides to start charging higher and higher prices for the Sherlock Holmes stories. But publishers are willing to pay them because they sell like hotcakes. And as such, he becomes a highly paid writer.
Fascinating. That's awesome.
Other stuff about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He golfed, he boxed, and he played billiards. He was also a Freemason and a spiritualist. So as you recall, he offered the glove of Agatha Christie to a psychic to help find him. He believed in this sort of occult and this sort of stuff, which does find its way into Sherlock Holmes's novels, but often Holmes dispels this as fantasy or delusion or something like that, which is interesting that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle dabbled in it himself.
I think as a writer, anytime you have an interest in something, when it comes out, you're going to have in a work, you're going to have both sides of it, right? Just because the nature of drama is conflict and arguing one way versus another way. So, yeah, it is funny. He has this like super smart character that he detests who disagrees with something he likes. That is just a very fascinating conversation with yourself.
Yes. And he himself, I would say, seems to resemble in many ways Holmes's trusted sidekick, Dr. John Watson, who I'm just going to lump together the sidekicks of Poirot and Sherlock Holmes together because Poirot has a Dr. John Watson and he is Captain Arthur Hastings. So we have Dr. John Watson and Captain Arthur Hastings as a officer of the British Empire. And who these guys are is they're essentially like, we have good old boys in America. These are good old boys, but for Brits. Like just sturdy, solid English stock,
Corn-fed.
Yeah, exactly. Like right down the middle. And they see the genius of their friend, but they're a straightforward person who can kind of enjoy being along for the ride. They will often be sort of the sounding board of theories that the detective might have, and then occasionally they will say something unwittingly that unlocks the case with their simple, elementary minds that, are capable of looking at things in a different way than their genius compatriots.
Yeah, we see this like two of our favorite USA detective shows, Monk and Psych, have this, where you have kind of the eccentric genius, and then the partners, or in Monk, the people in the police department. Yeah, it's just very like middle of the road, and just kind of trying to keep up, and like sometimes having a very straightforward thinking mind is what helps the detective unlock it. That also, yeah, it's just makes sense from a creative standpoint to have kind of the audience stand-in character who can kind of help us relate to the eccentric sleuth.
Precisely. And then these guys also help sort of pave the way if their, eccentric buddy needs an introduction or needs to get into some place that's a little more buttoned up. Them vouching for Holmes or Poirot tends to help things go a little bit easier.
They mediate, they translate.
Exactly. They soothe bruised egos when the titanic intellect of their pal crushes the feelings of somebody else, which is typically the Scotland Yard detectives. For Holmes, it is Inspector G. Lestrade, and for Poirot, it is Inspector James Japp, and they are plotting Japp.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Listen, that's how it's said. There wasn't there was nothing. World War II hadn't happened yet.
I guess so.
There you go. So. They are plotting. They are misguided, unimaginative rivals of these guys. They sort of provide your straightforward police procedural way of solving a crime, which is always insufficient and not up to the task of cracking the cases that they bring in the big guns for. And they're basically just there to showcase the imaginative brilliance of our detectives.
Right on.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the film and TV adaptations of these two super sleuths right after the break. Okay, well, with the popularity of the stories about these two characters, it was an inevitability that they would be adapted into film and TV. However, I find them both best suited for the page. I think that it's very difficult to find an actual living human being that can represent all of the qualities that make these characters so distinct and lovable.
Yeah, I think the chief issue is in prose fiction, you can get into the mind and the specifics and the machinations of their intellect, and you can't really get into that as much in a live action adaptation without just slowing everything down to a grinding halt. So there is this somewhat superheroification, or just more straightforward police procedural detective portrayal of these characters that kind of fits Hollywood formulas and such. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think, I on the one hand, I think you could say that none of the live action adaptations have been superior to the written word, but they're all really watchable and enjoyable. Like, no matter what you think of the Rock'em Sock'em Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, it's still pretty fun to watch, right?
Totally.
So it's like these characters are so well drawn that even the most scattershot, even a misfire adaptation is going to have stuff to enjoy.
Yeah, so you've referenced a couple times now with Sherlock Holmes, there is the Robert Downey Jr. It's a Guy Ritchie directed adaptation, and it really gives Holmes this punching edge. He sort of inspired superheroes, I think his stories, superhero films then inspired this adaptation and this version of Sherlock Holmes.
Definitely.
He's really got quips. He, analyzes foes and then dispatches them, with judo moves and stuff like that. And it's not really it's just kind of not right. No. Holmes would fight as a means of a last, self-defense, but he's not in bare knuckle boxing rings for money.
Yeah, it's a fun approach to the character, but yeah, it just kind of betrays him at its core.
Yeah. And then the other one is Benedict Cumberbatch, who I think maybe even gives a little bit too much of himself to the character. His Holmes is very persnickety, very fidgety. He is strange looking, tall, and thin. Like, I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a very good, like, image match for Sherlock Holmes. And it is a updated modern portrayal. It takes place kind of in the aughts, in the early 2010s.
Yeah, I couldn't really get into the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock Holmes. I think his Watson is Martin Freeman, who I also really enjoy. But I just, for some reason, I just kind of couldn't get into it. I don't know. Holmes is like in that one is like an Iraq war veteran or there's something.
I think that's Watson.
Or Watson is, yeah, right. So it's like they have kind of these modern elements. But yeah, I don't know. Did you like that adaptation?
I remember it coming out when I was in college. I remember it sort of being of a piece with House of Cards as like one of the first like good things, really solid things that was on Netflix, the streaming service. I remember enjoying it in college. I did go back and try watching the pilot, and it didn't quite grip me in the same way. And I think it might have been, again, sort of with House of Cards in that sort of transitionary period of television where it's kind of the first wave of prestige entertainment. And that's what it sort of represents. And it is so popular, though, that it kind of goes on for too long. I tuned into a random 5th season episode, I believe, and Holmes was high on heroin, and it was just all wrong. It wasn't quite right.
Yeah, I don't know why there's such a need to diverge from the character when there hasn't been a really like great, straightforward adaptation of it. And maybe he's too quaint of a character where you could do a straightforward adaptation. Maybe you have to kind of make it a little more modern. But I don't even know that we've had just a regular, solid, good adaptation, have we really?
Well, it's too boring for modern audiences, but John Barrymore portrayed him quite well in silent films. And then this is a perfect name for a character or for a man who played Sherlock Holmes. His name was Basil Rathbone.
Oh, yeah? I'm unfamiliar. What era was this? Do you know?
This is like the 40s.
Okay,
This is the 40s. He looks very much like Holmes. He probably looks as much like Holmes as somebody possibly could.
Gaunt.
Very gaunt, very sort of, looks like the... I'm blanking on his name, but in Star Wars, the guy that they CGI generated for Rogue One.
The guy who's on the side of the Empire.
Yes,
I forget his name. But
Peter
something, maybe?
Sure.
I don't know.
It's unknowable. No one could possibly know it. All right. And then the next one that obviously we now come to Hercule Poirot. There is David Suchet, I believe, or Suchet. Again, not exactly sure how you say that last name. That is a BBC series. He is the truest Poirot. Yeah. He is straight out of the book. He has the mustaches. He has the plumpness. He has the egg-shaped head, an almost indecipherable Belgian accent. He is right down the middle, albeit a teensy bit boring.
Yeah. I think that is the danger with Poirot is and we'll talk about the Kenneth Branagh, but he sexes it up. He makes it a little more fun in Hollywood, whereas straightforward Poirot, it's going to move at a languid pace.
Yes. Then in the 70s, there was sort of a Agatha Christie revival along with, Albert Finney does Murder on the Orient Express, but the character maybe known a little bit more for it is Peter Ustinov. He is a quite plump man, and he's blonde in comparison to the very raven-haired Poirot. Ustinov does not look like Poirot in that way, but in every other way is a pretty much perfect representation of him, a perfect portrayal. He's portly, he's cosmopolitan, and he hates physical exercise. There is a great scene in one of the movies where he goes swimming, quote unquote, and him going swimming is him wearing a comically oversized swimsuit, walking back and forth in the water once and then walking right back out. And he's sort of miming swimming as he's walking in the water.
He's
yeah.
just kind of a chubby kid,
Yeah,
isn't he?
exactly. He
Poirot.
solves crimes.
Funny.
Other more famous people who have played Poirot there is a John Malkovich portrayal.
Whoa.
He is a Prime Video Poirot. So in sort of the
Wow.
first days of Prime Video making stuff,
Wow.
he is all wrong. Just doesn't do it. He's got a goatee.
Oh, God.
He looks exactly
Oh.
like Malkovich. Like they don't really
Oh,
change him to
God.
suit the character
They
at all.
don't de-Malkovich him.
No, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
the accent and the way that he's talking just doesn't work. I mean, I love John Malkovich, but he isn't
Yeah,
right there.
tough.
And then Albert Molina, in a younger era of him, plays a sort of TV movie Poirot.
I can see that. Is he good in it?
He is not great. I think it's
Ah.
more of a problem of the script. In
Yeah.
the one scene that I watched from the opening of it, there's a woman who runs a nightclub who begs Poirot to run away from solving crimes and marry her. And I'm just like, that would never happen. No.
Barking up the wrong tree,
Yes.
honey.
Yeah. And I think the we've kind of touched on this, but I think the main thing that they get wrong is they try to actors, like for say with Shakespeare, there's a million different ways to play Hamlet.
Sure.
But there is only basically one way to play Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot, and that is the way that they are written in the book. I don't want any spin. I don't want any take. I don't want any reinvention or modernization. I want these guys frozen in amber and defrosted and captured on film.
Do you think it has to take place then in the era of which they were written, or can you still do these characters in modern day?
Holmes, I think, is trickier to adapt to modern day just because he's like a Victorian gentleman, kind of. Whereas Poirot,
You're right. You're right. Poirot screams Riz
Yeah.
and aura.
He's got that asexual riz, low key. He though I can see Poirot existing a little bit more in modernity to me because there isn't anything. He doesn't have the cap. There are still like fastidious gentlemen in this way,
That's true.
but there aren't
That's
really
true.
pipe smoking cocaine recluses.
Yeah, I guess so.
it-
Both are antiquated
Yeah.
and somewhat modern, I guess. But yeah, I get why it's been difficult. They're tough characters to adapt, I would say, to live action.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this is the point of the verses. This is what it all comes down to.
Are we squaring off?
We are squaring them
All
off.
right.
Hercule Poirot versus Sherlock Holmes. I will poll you, but I may take the final say here. We'll see.
Geez.
Well, I guess I'll give you.
Well, you've
then.
read more, you've watched more. I'm familiar with both. I've read both and watched both, but
So I will treat you as my Dr. John Watson or Captain Arthur Hastings as I evaluate the case of Sherlock Holmes.
I
versus
had
Hercule
never heard of Hastings.
Hastings. He's a great character.
Yeah,
he's
that's great.
perpetually bemused by
Of course,
Poirot, which
of
is
course.
really great. Okay, so living situation is where we're going to start with first. What do you make of
we
it?
have Holmes, who's got his little den on Baker Street,
Mm-hmm.
versus the nomadic
Hercule
Poirot. It's hard to know what we're really evaluating. I guess the true nature of the private eye is you are that knight, right? You are roaming from kingdom to kingdom, solving the problems of the people. However, a lot of private detectives also have the home base, right? I think any good detective would at least have an office where you store some files and paperwork. But I think truer to the nature of what a private detective is, I'm kind of leaning Poirot, despite how iconic Holmes's office is there on Baker Street.
I completely agree with you. Poirot gets out and about. He's on vacation all the time. He stays in the finest hotels. Holmes is a bit of a shut-in. It wouldn't be the type of life that I would look for, so I'm giving that as well to Hercule Poirot.
I'll say this. I would be floored if Poirot won this. I got to really be honest with you. That would really be a Cinderella story upset. So the fact that he's even got the lead is kind of shocking to hear.
I'm enjoying it. Fashion sense.
Okay, so Poirot is sort of metro fancy boy, and then Holmes is kind of the houndstooth. The houndstooth cap. I've seen drawings, and it's fine. I don't really remember it too much from the live action. Holmes, he has probably worse height, definitely worse hygiene.
Certainly.
Sorry, the category is looks, right?
Fashion
Sorry,
sense.
fashion sense. It's got to be Poirot with the mustaches,
Of course.
and the suit, and I mean, it has to be him,
The
right?
impeccable outfits. Yeah, you're right there with it.
We're
The
not evaluating their waistlines. It's
No.
what they're doing with
No,
their vessels, you know?
All right, here we go. Physical abilities. This
Well,
one is
this we gotta give to Holmes,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Right.
Poirot. You just said it. He doesn't know how to swim. He
He
was
is-
miming swimming,
Yeah.
right?
yes. Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
would, break Hercule Poirot like a
Yeah.
twig.
Yeah.
There would be
He'd-
no contest
He'd
there.
punch him in the gut till he was coughing up hot chocolate. wouldn't
Yes, I agree. Mental abilities.
he? This is a tough one, man. It's a classic question of what do you consider true intelligence? Because there's many ways to evaluate intelligence, right? A rocket scientist versus a mechanic, right?
Yes, I would say I will give the edge to Sherlock Holmes because he is more inquisitive in a broader sense. Sherlock Holmes conducts experiments. He's a scientist. He
okay.
is a man of reads a lot. He does a lot of intellectual activities, whereas Hercule Poirot likes eating delicious meals and
Yeah.
staying at the finest hotels and solving crimes. He's basically a crime solver, and that's his very specific niche of intelligence.
Holmes more an intellectual kind of a true intellectual,
Yes.
right? Even as you said, with these times in between cases when he's going to rot, he's still working out his brain.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see your angle on that. What's the score now? 2-2?
2-2.
Okay.
Favorite indulgences.
This is funny. So Poirot, it's the sweets and the creme de cassis. And was there another one? So that's pretty much it.
basically
And
it,
then
yeah.
Holmes is pipe tobacco and cocaine and opiates. And did he have a food or anything he likes?
He can go many hours without eating. Food does not play a
Yeah.
big role in Sherlock Holmes's life.
I guess Poirot. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a little more likable, isn't it? The sweets.
Absolutely.
That's a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can't
like
be
people who don't eat. I don't trust that. You
No.
gotta eat.
You gotta eat. You gotta eat. Better adaptations.
Live action, I assume
Yeah.
we're saying. Oh golly. Oh God, is Poirot gonna win this?
It's
Here's
Poirot to me. It's Poirot.
Yeah, I mean, I think Downey's pretty awesome as Sherlock Holmes. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but that's the greatest British accent from a guy not born in England. Like his British accent's unbelievable, and he's very good as the character. Cumberbatch plays the character well. It's interesting. Like I don't mind the performances so much. It's just kind of the movies or the shows that they're in. I'm not so in love with, and I think. I don't know how likable I find the Poirot character in the live action adaptations. You're making a face. You think he's very likable?
delightful. He's a joy. He's very lovable.
Well, are you going to override me?
I'm gonna
'Cause
override
I'm probably
you.
leaning Holmes, but it seems like you want Poirot.
you have a simple mind, Captain Hastings. You do not evaluate the things from all the angles like me, Hercule
Right.
Poirot,
You got the
Mendel
little
gray
gray
cells.
cells. All right.
They're working. I like Hercule Poirot. I think the
Okay.
Ustinov films are better than anything that Sherlock Holmes has done. And then obviously there's the masterpiece of Murder on the Orient Express, which is like just one of the great movies.
Nothing gets a lady going more wild than asking her if she wants to come over and watch Ustinov's Poirot.
You want to watch Death on the Nile? Ustinov is
Yeah.
unreal. Okay, the next category is the author.
Oh, interesting. Conan Doyle versus Agatha. Gosh, that Agatha story you mentioned, 200 miles from home, hotel, name a Nelly. That is something. I love both writing styles. There's certainly some overlap in the styles. They're similar eras somewhat, right?
Yes.
Kind of late 1800s.
Agatha-
Conan Doyle's a little earlier, right?
Right. Agatha Christie is undeniably influenced by Sherlock
Yes,
Holmes
yes.
and Conan Doyle's
Yeah.
writing style when creating
I-
Hercule Poirot.
I think based on that, you've read more than me. Is she leaps and bounds a better writer than Conan Doyle?
I certainly prefer her, and I
Do
think that the stats scoreboard written
Yeah,
more, and
God,
this
you're
isn't her
right.
only character. Like, she has many other sort of different characters.
Jeez,
and
man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Poirot, huh?
Poirot again.
Poirot, I gotta trust you on that one.
You wouldn't think
Elementary.
it.
Elementary, dear Jim.
Yeah,
Is what you're thinking.
that is what I am thinking. Who would you want to solve a murder you cared about?
Oh,
Would you
boy.
prefer Sherlock Holmes or Hercule
Poirot? Poirot, 100%.
Really?
100% Poirot. Because Holmes, he's flighty. He's unreliable at times. He's a little mad. Whereas Poirot, look, both are gonna solve it, right?
Right.
Both are gonna get the
That's a good
guy or
point.
whoever got it wrong. But Poirot, it's like when you hire someone or have a coworker. It's like, who do you want to hang out with? Would you rather hang out with Poirot or Holmes? I'd probably rather hang out with Poirot and have to deal with Poirot versus Holmes. Smoking pipe tobacco in my living room and asking if I have cocaine. I mean, it's like, look, Poirot, I got hot chocolate.
Yeah.
I can whip that up anytime you want. So I think Poirot, I maybe would go with on that. You kind of made a face. You think it's Holmes, you think?
I got Swiss Miss in my cupboard. This is how I broke it down. You sort of anticipated the next question that I was going to say. I would want Sherlock Holmes solving the murder I cared about because he can handle himself better. I think that throw him into any situation, Sherlock Holmes is going to get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
However, who would I want to work with if we were solving a murder together? It is obviously
It's Poirot.
Hercule Poirot.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last category.
Good God, does Holmes even have a chance here?
No, he doesn't.
So this is just window dressing.
Yep.
Let's hear it.
Well, this
though.
is kind of the capper. More enjoyable stories. I have read more Hercule Poirot stories by Agatha Christie. I love them. They're probably some of my favorite types of stories. I recommend them to anybody. I especially recommend them if you are on vacation or you are sick. If you are sick or you are recuperating, if you have a broken leg, there are so many Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot stories, and they are all interchangeably brilliant. Some of them really hit some very high highs. You get to go to many exotic, lovely locations, and the bad guy always gets what's a coming to him.
Well, I'll defer to you. You say you'd rather read Poirot.
I would.
And worth noting, if you are reading Poirot while you're recuperating from a broken leg, you and Poirot will be doing the same amount of exercise, probably, right? That's what you said, right? That's what he's how he got so rotund.
That's right. He does not enjoy the exercise, the rhythmic movement of the limbs.
What was the final score?
It was Hercule Poirot 7,
Okay.
Sherlock Holmes 3.
Oh my, Will, can you believe it? That is really. I thought this was kind of just a fun sort of. We gotta give Holmes a foil, and Poirot. I know you love him, and I enjoy him as well. But I am. Boy, I mean, of all the Versus episodes, this one's really got me stumped. I'll just be honest with you.
I'm a Hercule Poirot guy, to the grave, and hopefully I wasn't murdered on my way there.
Yeah, hey. I know who their first suspect's going to be. It's going to be me.
Yeah,
We've
you
had a
certainly
few
would.
spats, haven't we?
You certainly would have a motive, and they would go through our text messages and find some quite incriminating.
Well,
items.
we've solved the whodunit. Is that right, pal?
Yeah, Hercule Poirot. I listen. I think Sherlock Holmes. He has the name that rings throughout history. But if you're a fan of detective fiction, I got to give the nod to my man, the Belgian fancy boy genius, Hercule Poirot.
Well, is that it?
That's it. He's our Flynn brother favorite.
Hey, well, that means Jim is back on the case. And that means please subscribe, comment, or leave a rating. Send questions, comments, or big idea suggestions to our business email, flynnbrospod@gmail.com. Thank you to our producer, Will Slade, and we'll see you next time on the Flynn Brothers Podcast. Take care, buddy.
No, buddy. You take care, mon ami.